Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Kevin here with Kevin's Woodcraft. I wanted to bring a video to you guys that I've been promising to bring for a while, and I've meaning to bring, but I've just been so busy. So let's get in here and get at it and get to building this thing. Now, for example, if you just happen to not have a compound miter saw, you can still do this, and you can use a circular saw, but I'm going to show you another way in case you don't know that you can actually get pretty accurate cut comparable to the miter saw. Not as efficient or convenient or as fast, but you can still pull it off pretty accurate. I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, if you'll take you a speed square and clamp it down to your board. Now I scored it on my chop saw where the cut or the line would actually be. Now what you'll do is you'll take the circular saw that you have, and instead of just trying to eyeball and follow the line, and of course mine is offset between the edge of that deck and that blade, it's 1.5 inches. So as you can see that space right there, that the square is sitting behind that line, that's because, watch this, that's where it's lined up now. That blade's going to hit the line. As long as you just go 1.5 inches or whatever your saw may be, but just be careful and be, aware of that. But now if I just cut this thing, see how the deck of the saw is going to slide straight against that square? Make you a nice straight cut through there, which would be better than if you did it by hand. Now, there's a lot of people that can do a pretty good job by hand, but human error is involved in it. It's not a perfect cut. But doing this will simulate as perfect and close to 90 degrees as you can do without having a chop saw. So I just want you to be aware of that. In case you don't have a chop saw, there's still ways. Okay, here's the basic layout of the end panel. Now it's laying on its side, as you can see. All right, these are the two uprights. Okay, two front and back. That's the 28.5. Okay, now this would be the top apron and this would be the bottom apron. And what I do on here, I'll come up from my speed square together, two boards, make a mark at 3, and then draw a line across. Okay, now what that line will do is that line will be visible like on this edge, and I would line up my bottom apron to that line on both sides. And also what I'll do is I have pocket holes in all this, but I'm just trying to show you the layout right now. I'll get it all set up, ready to be attached together, glue, and I'll get ready to run my pocket holes. But I'll clamp it up, and then I'll take a square. This is very important. Take a square and go into each corner and check to make sure they're all 90 degrees. And just adjust it and everything until it is 90 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and sand this thing down real quick and then put one together so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm going to show you the next step. I've already got my uprights and my aprons and everything all sanded up. Just on one, I'm just going to show you real quick. What we're going to do now is make some pocket holes. This is the correct pocket hole jig. It's usually about, I think it's like the simplest one you can get from them. Pardon the dust. It comes in a little case like this. Okay, which is at Lowe's, Home Depot. Now, if you're following along this video trying to make this L-shaped desk, you're probably either a seasoned woodworker that's, you're kind of novice, done a few projects, or you're an absolute beginner and you just want to build it. Well, this thing is really cool because it will help you to, it's like a very strong joint, but it's a simple joint that anyone that can use a drill can do this. I mean, you're not ready for mortise and tin, half-lap joints and all that. You're not ready for that. And a lot of people that get into woodworking, just like the rustic farmhouse style, they never get into those types of hardwoods and different joinery and hand planes and chisels. You're never going to, it just is what it is. A lot of people talk bad about this, but it's where you need to be. It's what you need to be doing right now if you're at that point in the game. Okay, but what it does is, you can see, it puts these angle bores into the piece of wood. Now it's adjustable, all these different settings. This is 1.5 inch thick wood. You'll set the collar on the drill bit to the 1.5 inch. I mean, it allows you to put pocket holes in 1/2 inch and 3/4 and 1.5 inch. That would be good for like a sheet of plywood. You're building a cabinet carcass or something like that. Okay, but you're going to use 1.5 inch stock. See, what you'll do is you have these settings here, these feet that go on the end of the board like such. That lines it up. You're going to run your drill bit right through there and make the hole. Now, I've done them all except for this last one, so I'll just let you see what I'm talking about. It comes with a little clamp holder, and you buy the metal clamp separately, and I wasn't about that. I actually did buy the clamp. Didn't like it. It's like a vice grip, and it actually can mark your wood if you're not careful. So I use a trigger clamp. No problem at all. So what you're going to do is you're just going to get that thing lined up, like I said, at the end of the board. Take your drill and just drill your hole. You see how it even has a port for the dust to come out of when you do the one. Okay, like I said, I'm going to do the last one. That's just a hammer drill. It's a little faster. I use my other drill to drive the screws, keep that driving bit in there, and I use that one for doing these pocket holes. Now, another thing I want to tell you real quick, a good tip. If you happen to sand your pieces first like I did, and I do it both ways, but I've done a lot of these, so I'm going to give you a tip here to help you out. Be very, very careful on your work surface of these little pieces of sawdust and hard pieces that fell back on here. If you lay this smooth sanded piece back on here, move it around, you're going to get all kinds of scratches and gouges back into this piece. Be careful to keep your work area clean, especially from these pocket holes, because all that right there, you may not believe it, but that's very hard as far, you know, it's on the end grain, side grain, and it'll scratch up the face grain of the piece you just sanded. I know, I've seen me do it. Okay, so now basically, set this out of the way. And it just, what I normally do is I go through all of them, get them all done, and I put all three together. But I'm just going to, you know, for these of this video, show you another thing I do. Before I put my pocket holes in there, I take a look at this board, because typically when the desk is built, the end panel, the pocket holes on mine stay on the inside, and the outside panel is what you see from the outside of the desk walking around it, and I don't want pocket holes on that. So I also want the best piece of wood. In other words, the two sides, if one looks better than the other one, it's not getting pocket holed, it's going to the outside. So I pocket hold the worst looking side. If that makes sense. And of all of my 6, I have 3 tops and 3 bottoms. For example, they go flat like this, and this is the inside of the desk. The pocket holes are visible. The outside is face down on the table. If that makes any sense. You'll see better once I get it put together and you can actually look at the panel. And of the 2, if one is better than the other one, of the 3 best will go down here at the bottom. The 3 worst, and they may be pretty much the same, but if you have 3 visible best that you can see, I put them at the bottom, because the top is going to go up here, and from the inside, unless somebody gets down and looks up under that desk, which they may, that's where they're going to be at. So I've learned to be selective with my wood, because you know there's a time when you get back done, set back, and you put everything together, and you look and you see, oh, there's a big old knot hole right there in front of God and everybody look at it. I wish I would have put that on the top side or on the back side. And at this point in the game, I'm at the stage where I fill everything. If I have any kind of imperfections in the wood, I fill them with like a wood filler, and I sand. And if it's a really nice piece of furniture, I sand it up to like 500 grit. If it's really bad, I start with 80. I go to 120, 150, sometimes 180, 220, 320, 420, 500. And that, usually the tops though, but that will make all the difference in the world. I promise you that. Okay, so I'm going to get ready to start, quit babbling and get ready to put this thing together. Okay, here I have all my end panels done, just stacked up together. Again, it's 3 end panels to make this L-shaped disc. Okay, now the next step, once you get your end panels all good and ready, is just start framing everything together. Okay, the best way probably to do this is show you. I can set the camera up on a tripod and explain what I'm doing. I could probably do that. Either way, I could do a sketch, but I'm definitely gonna put a cut list on here. You just gotta be careful with your dimensions. Now, what I'm doing is very modifiable. Again, I created this plan. I saw a similar L shape, but I modified it to do what I'm doing now. Okay, so let me go ahead and start explaining. I'm going to make the small part first, the 4-foot section, okay? So it's basically kind of boxed in. In other words, you have an end panel on one side, end panel on the other, and you've got aprons going across to attach those together. Okay, then on the, I call it a wing, okay? The left side is winged out, and then you've just got some coming off of the box you just made, if that makes sense. All right, let me try to lay this out here on my table saw real quick, and I'm going to try to show you. That's the L-shape desk right there. And you have a 5-foot section on the back and a 4-foot on the front. And there's the corner right there. So obviously this front piece and this front piece are not going to be 5x4. Okay. Now my top width is 22 inches. And that is because I use 2x6s for my top. Okay. Now here's what happens and why I come up with that measurement. 2x6 is 5.5 inches. I put 4 of them together to make my top. So when you do 5.5 times 4, you get 22. Okay, there's my end panel. That end panel, I want it to be 20 inches right there. Okay, that's 20 inches. That way, when I put a 22-inch top on there, right, I have an inch overhang on both sides. And I do an inch overhang on all my sides. Okay, now, given I give you the 20 inches now for the width of the end panel, and you know now the top is 22. That's just because you're using 4 2x6s, stacking them together. All right. So in other words, you know you have a 2x4 here and here. So then now you need to determine what this measurement is. It's 13 because a 2x4 is 3.5. So 3.5 is 7. 7 from 20 is 13. So you got to cut this one 13 to make it 20 to fit perfectly for the end panel. Okay. Now my height on this end panel is same as I do everything. And my handwriting is horrible. 28.5, 28.5 inches. Okay. Just try not to focus. All right. 28.5. Okay. Now the reason is for that again is I want it to be 30 inches. Well, the 2x6 is 1.5 inches thickness. So when you add 1.5 inches on top of 28.5, that gives you the 30. Okay, now let me explain real quick where I'm at now. Okay, so this L shape, as you can see here, let me do another little diagram here. Here's an end panel over here, and there'll be an end panel over here, and there'll be an end panel over here. Now this is kind of like a top view looking down, so to speak. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to box in the first one. Okay, I'm just going to run aprons across this 2 end panels and create it like almost like a little entryway table credenza. It's just got end panels. It could be anything actually. It kind of looks like a little credenza when you do this. Now this particular one I'm doing now does not get a bottom shelf. So if you have a bottom shelf, then you're going to do, I mean, it kind of looks like you have one at the top and the back, and let me show you. I don't guess you can. And there's the X's here. So that would be what I'm about to do now. If you can see that, that's end panels with the cross bucks in there. Now this is the apron in the front and the back and the bottom back. I don't put one here now in the very front because this desk will not get the bottom shelf. But if it does, then you just simply add 4. Now I do more of them than I don't. I've just recently started building them without the bottom shelf. Without having the bottom shelf, it allows you to roll your chair under either side of this L shape. Okay. Now, here's what you need to determine. You know that's 4 foot, 48 inches. Now, let's go back to talking about that inch overhang. Well, for the frame needs to be 46 so that the top overhangs on both sides. Okay? So if you know you're 46 on your frame, right? Well, the end panels are built flat, right? What I mean by flat is, as Do you see them? It's 1.5 inches on the width. Okay, so you know you have 1.5 inch end panels. What you need to do to determine this, so for right now, we don't know what this is. That's not really a question mark, but you get the idea. We don't know what that piece is, for example. Well, you have 1.5 inches here, and you have 1.5 inches here, because that represents the end panel. So take 46 and subtract this, and it gives you this. It's 43 inches. So you need 43-inch pieces for that section, and that'll complete that part. And that's where I'm at now. I've got them cut. I'm just going to go ahead and, here in a moment, and put them things together. After you do that, the only other thing you have left to do, this one's a little trickier, but it is not over your head by any means. It's not that complicated. A little trickier, but now what you're going to do, you want to have the top, of course, is 5 foot, 60 inches on this end. That means I need a frame of 58. So if you're catching on, you need a 60 by 48 top, and you need a 58 by 46 frame to give you the inch overhang. If you don't want to do the inch overhang, then don't do that. But I always like to do that. I think it looks a little better, has a little just better feel, better look to it. Okay, and if you make a mistake on, if you're not perfectly square, you'll see it if you don't have an overhang. But I've never really had that problem. Everything lines up really, really well. So what you need to do now, you'll need to take your 58s, okay? You'll have to subtract 2 things. You have to, because here, let me put this in here real quick so we'll stay focused. 58 inches is what we need in this frame section, okay? But you've got to take away this dimension here and the thickness of that end panel sitting up there to give you this piece here. Well, that's what we're trying to determine. I know it's 36.5, but I'm going to show you how I know that. You take the 58 and you subtract this. Well, again, I told you my end panels are 20 inches, right? Well, you subtract this 20 and you subtract this 1.5 from the 58, it gives you 36.5. So you need to cut 3 of these 36.5. Now on this side, you only cut 3 of these, whether you do the shelf or not, because you gotta, if you've got the shelf over here, you've got to be able to sit on this side, okay? But on this particular desk I'm doing, it doesn't have a bottom shelf. So I need 3 at 43 and 3 at 56.5. And again, I'm going to write all this down so that it's so that it kind of makes sense, okay? So I've got the 43s already done. They're right there. I just want to kind of show you the mentality of why I do that, and what it's really just a lot of math, and you just got to know the dimensions of what you're trying to build and how to get there, okay? So I'm just trying to explain that. I hope I don't over explain it, but yeah, let me go ahead and get this 4-foot section. It's really, it goes fast, but let's get out here to the area here and get it going. Okay, so now I got my end panel laid down here, and this is going to be the back of the desk. This is going to be the front. None of that, I mean, the way I've got it laid out. This is going to be my top front rail. Now, another thing I do, I'm very selective with my wood. If you've seen how I do with the end panels, the aprons, and the uprights, my best board out of these 3 would be one here, one down here. My best goes to the front. That'll be seen more than any other boards. Okay, so like I said, I'm real selective. I've learned to do that. If you have one that's really bad, I mean, if it's really bad, don't use it. But if it's, you know, not the best, it's, you know, try to put it to where, like, say this one, for example, is the worst of the 3. But this outside is decent, but the inside has got some knots, and I think it had a band mark from being strapped in the unit, and it's going to go, that bad spot's going to go to the inside under the top, so it's only way somebody's ever even going to see that is if they get to the front of the desk and take a look, and I don't think they'll, yeah. It's not bad. It's, everything, like I said, it gets painted, but I'm going to go ahead and start attaching these aprons to these end panels, and it's pretty simple. Now, I don't have a clamp big enough. You don't need to clamp them. But what I do is I'll line it up at the front edge, and I'll put some glue, and I just run screws in. Pretty simple. But again, this is the 43-inch pieces I was talking about. I just put a little stream of glue once I'll tell you what, this glue dries up so fast. All right. If you're doing a piece that you're going to be staining, you better be very, very careful with your glue, because you squeeze out, and you better get, pay attention to that. If you see you have squeeze out, you better sand it off, wipe it with a wet rag, sand it, get it off the wood, because if you let it dry and you go to stain your piece, that glue does not stain. It does not take the color, and it shows up. It's obvious. No, one got away. Okay, flush of the front, a little feel on that front edge there. All right, now as I do this, I'm running my screw, driving my pocket hole, okay, to sink this piece in. I put mine on the slow setting of this drill. I don't want to go right crazy fast. If I drill the pocket holes, I go fast. And also, this is softwood, and it's mostly spruce. Here's what I do. I'm going to drive it. I'm not going to go crazy, but I don't want to strip it out. So when it starts to grab, I don't keep driving, because it can strip out. And also, by not having a clamp and I'm letting a little bit of gravity work here as best I can. But I want to go slow, because once I feel it to pop through, a lot of times when you go to tighten this one down, and once it gets to the point that it wants to completely tighten, you're going this direction, it wants to twist the board a little bit if you're not careful, or you don't compensate or allow for that. So what I'll actually do is I'll start driving this one very, very slow, and I know the point when it enters into the end panel, I'll go a few revolutions and I'll stop. Now, having that screw pegged in there bites and locks it in that location, but I still don't have it tightened down all the way. That's when I've got good control to start my next screw in the location I want it to be holding. And at that point, once it bites in, I can see them both. I hope that's not too much explanation, but I've built a lot of these. I mean, a lot. And I'm just trying to pass on things that I have evolved to learn and notice. So hopefully it helps you, and hopefully it's not too much information. So there it is. It just bit into the end panel. It lifted it a tiny, tiny bit, and I felt it. So now I'm not going to go any farther. I mean, you can, but it will twist it when you tighten it down, and I know that. All right, now I'm through on this one. Now I can just see them both. That's a little sound you get used to hear. Once that pocket hole screw tightens in, you just get off of it. Don't keep going. There it is. Well, I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of them, let you see it, and I'll get ready to put the other end panel in. Okay, there you have it. I've got all three pieces on there. Don't pay too much attention to this big, huge pile of basically firewood. We have a burn ban here, so I'm not allowed to burn right now. Normally it's not that bad, so I do apologize. But I got all the pieces on here. I'm going to go ahead and situate to that next end panel and get it going. Okay, real quick, I just want to direct your attention down here. As you can see, this apron on the very bottom of the desk end panel. And here's where the apron didn't go because we're not putting a shelf in. I actually take my square and I will scribe a line right here, just straight across from this bottom, so this lines up with the bottom of this. Put a little line there, so I know, like I said, where it goes. So like when I'm getting ready to do the one on the top, as you can see, I'd simply take my square and line it up with the bottom of that apron, make me a line, just so I know where this needs to be, so it lines up with this piece. Just want to let you know that real quick. Okay, I've already got glue on those, and all you got to do basically now is just lay it up here, get it lined up, and screw it in. You see how it's coming together now? This is going to be the 4-foot side, like I said, and then you just wing off for the big side. I'm just basically putting this one together now. It's Wednesday, and I've also got to have another 4-foot straight desk with shelves in it and a day bed, all done by Friday. I'll get it. So basically this is a 4-foot piece. All right. Now let me show you some stuff. Again, I'm gonna do up top. This section it'd be 48. Okay. Again, like I told you, we did this. I'll come over here. Maybe you can see this on camera. 46 inches is what this better be, right? 46 on the money. I don't think you can see that, but it's 46. I promise you. And you can check your squareness here. 46 on the money. And again, the end panel is 20. Yep. Perfect. So now at this point, what we're going to do, I'll move it over here just to explain this real quick. I need this section, like I said earlier, to be, this is where the L comes off of it. So basically all it really is you're going to have that sitting over here. I'm going to come in a little closer so maybe you can see. It goes a little bit farther out that way. And you got nice good cuts, 9 degrees, they stand right up even on sawdust. But all you're doing here is the same thing over here. You're putting a top back rail, top front rail, and bottom back rail, okay? And no bottom front rail, okay? So normally, if you can kind of visualize, this one would have had the bottom front rail and some slats for a shelf. And I mean, this goes out a little bit ways than this, but you could roll under here with a desk chair. You could lean over on this side and do stuff, you know, but you can't slide under here and sit with a shelf. So a few people here recently have been asking me to, you know, well, do we have to do the shelf? I'm like, absolutely not. So without the shelf, you know, you have free reign, all this desk real estate. You can sit anywhere where you want to. But these are some more tip-a-twos. I don't have them cut yet. Like I said, just so you can see, it's just going to be, you're just winging off like right there. And everything pocket holes to the inside, one at the very bottom and one at the very front. And all you do here, so like when you put this one here, and you know it goes to the corner of this end panel, the corner of this end panel, same down there, you know where it goes. And you know this one goes right here, but you might not know where it goes over here. It's very simple. You want it to be in relationship to, like, that's 20, that's 20. So if it's 20 from here to here, start here, mark 20, and mark it there. And when you run that apron over, you know exactly where it's got to go. I'm going to go ahead and cut those 36.5. Okay, like I said, if you add the 20, the 1.5, and 36.5, you get 58. Or take 58, subtract the 20 and the 1.5 here, and it gives you that piece here, which is 36.5. That gives you the 5-foot by 4-foot desk. And again, the frame is 58 by 46. Top is 60 by 48. All right, let's get this done. You like it? Yeah, okay. Well, there it is. There's the frame of the L shape completed. Like I said, these are just 36.5, done the same way as that side. As you can see, pocket holes always on the insides. The cool thing about doing the shelf down there, if you do pocket holes, you can hide them with the shelf. So anyway, there's the frame. Just please try not to overlook the super messy shop, but I'm so busy right now. I think I'm actually just going to try to film the top and do a part 2. I've just got so much to do. But again, real quick, I'm going to show you with the tape measure so you can verify and see everything I'm talking about. Again, this is a part like where you would sit, okay? And then you got the 5-foot this way and the 4-foot this way. But the frame is not 5 by 4. I want my overhang, so it's 58 by 46. So I'm just going to show you. 46, okay? 46, gotcha. Okay, so this whole section here, look at that, 58. Even you come over here, 58. All right. Again, end panels are 20 inches because, like I said, when you put the 4 2x6s together, they are 22. Now, as far as the top, which that's next, I'm gonna go ahead and take a break, go get me some lunch, and I'll come back and hit it. What I do is I build the frame like this, and I build the top, and I use the frame to hold the top as I build it, which kind of works out really good. But the very first thing I do is I start with that 5-foot piece on the outside, okay, and it goes from corner to corner, and it's cut 60 inches, 5 feet, because it's going to overhang both sides. Okay, now start with that one, and then that gives you, you know, it'd be 48 minus 5.5. I do have it all wrote down. Honestly, I have never actually, I don't go by anything. I just do what I have to do. I will help you and show you. I will do the first boards. Now, also very, very important, as you're doing, I don't have any, yeah, I do. I've got some small 2x6s right here. It only takes, it's crazy how it works out that way. It only takes 4 8-foot 2x6s to do this top. Okay, now for example, when you're going to go all the way with your, see, you got your inch overhang. You don't have to line it up on your frame now. You're just building it. The first joint will be, again, the 5-foot one across the back is dominant. It's a full 5-foot piece. That 3-foot that you have left over, you'll use it again up here. All your waste, be careful, because you use it. You don't have a lot left over, but and scrap. What I'm trying to get at is your very first joint. Sorry for holding the camera kind of weird. Okay, it'll kind of look like that. You have to be very careful with this joint, and you better check it with your square on the inside and make sure you're at 90 degrees. Okay, because if you're not, let's just say you're off a 16th on the first one, it'll progressively get worse. You'll be off an 1/8 on the second one, 3/16 on the following, you'll be off 1/4 inch on the last one. So make sure you get that right. Now, if you get in a situation, and I have had this happen, that joint is not 90 degrees, or one of them becomes out of whack, you just weren't paying attention, and it looked good from the top, it's off. You can start to cut a 1 degree or 2 degree, 1.5 degree cut instead of a 0, and get what you need to fit that joint. And you can also manipulate. You have a low side and a high side. You can manipulate with an orbital sander to take a little material off to get it to fit. But be careful. Don't want to ever get that point. If you have to go down that road, then go down that road. But try to prevent that if all possible. Make sure they're. And most of the desks, I'm just going to be completely honest, most of the ones, I would say maybe 2, I've had to fight that. But most of them do. Once you get your first one done, and you make sure you make your cuts slowly, and make sure your saw's right, and you know there's no angle cuts. You're all doing all this 90. You know, like I said, you get that piece there, and the next one you get, it's going to come in like this. Okay, see how that happens? It's a really cool pattern. You're gonna, and then of course you stagger them, kind of like a herringbone, and each one staggers back. I've never seen anybody do this on a desk like this. I'm not saying they haven't. I'm saying I haven't seen it. Actually, the desk that I saw, now like I said, I did modify this plan. It's different. The one I saw, they just run the top piece straight over here, you know, all the way like this, and they started butting. It's a butt joint all the way over. But I'm gonna quit rambling, get off here. I'm gonna go get me some lunch, and hope this helps. Hope this answers a lot of questions. And I'll get started on that top.